Thank you for joining us for today's webinar on Grow Your Cyber Resilience, protecting yourself and your business in a digital world. We know that digital technology plays an essential role in how we do business, and whether you're managing farm data, handling online payments, or just trying to stay connected, it all comes with a risk. So cyber threats are becoming more sophisticated and more frequent, and it's no longer a question of if you will be targeted, it's when. Today is all about helping you understand these risks and, more importantly, what you can do about them. Whether you're a small business owner or a grower or part of a larger organisation, this session will give you practical steps to build your resilience. And we're really lucky to be joined by Joe and James from the New Zealand's National Cyber Security Centre. The NCSC is the front line of our country's cyber defence, working with public and private organisations to protect New Zealand's most important information and systems. Joe and James bring a wealth of experience across cyber security strategy, incident response, and working with businesses just like yours to strengthen their digital defences. Please feel free to ask any questions throughout the session in the chat, and we can go through them at the end of the talk. And so now I'm just going to hand you over to Joe and James to get us started.
Thank you, Sheree. Tēnā koutou katoa. Ko Joe tōku ingoa e mahi ana au ki te tira tiaki. My name is Joe. I'm from the National Cyber Security Centre, which is a division of the GCSB. So my background is in engineering, threat analysis, and security operations, and I'm joined on the call by my colleague James.
Kia ora everyone. My name is James. As Joe said, I work for the NCSC. Also, I'm a cyber security advisor. I've been here coming up to 2 years, so I'll have my anniversary here shortly, and I will be with Joe today co-presenting and supporting as well with any prickly questions you might have for us at the end. Thank you.
Awesome. And yeah, apologies if it feels a little impersonal without the cameras on. That's just the advice we've been given since this is being recorded. Cool. So why are we here? The aim of this presentation is really to help you guys grow your cyber resilience right alongside your crops. We want to help you avoid and mitigate the risks of being targeted by malicious cyber actors and make sure that, while some of your exports might be frozen, your computers aren't. So first, I'll give you some background on the NCSC, who we are, what we do. Then we'll take a look at the threat landscape in the cyber world. Who's out there, why might they target us, and what the implications of that could be. And then we'll round out by touching on a few things that you can do to stay safe from these actors in your professional and personal lives. So for those of you who aren't familiar with us, the National Cyber Security Centre is part of the Government Communications Security Bureau. We're the lead operational cybersecurity agency for New Zealand. And if you were familiar with CERT New Zealand, the Computer Emergency Response Team, they used to handle cyber incidents for individuals and small businesses. And we've recently integrated with them to create a new lead agency, all under the NCSC umbrella, that has a mandate for cybersecurity ranging from individuals right up to big nationally significant organisations. So at the NCSC, we work to enable the protection, well-being and prosperity of Aotearoa New Zealand. And we do this in 3 ways. We defend national security, providing proactive and reactive cyber services to Kiwis. We make sure that New Zealand's digital environment is resilient, both meaning we're more resistant to attacks and we're able to bounce back quicker after any that do occur. And we make sure that New Zealanders and New Zealand can get the benefits of new technology in a secure and responsible way. Before we move on quickly, what actually is a cyber incident? It's not necessarily an attack in the common sense of the word. It could be any type of breach or compromise of your information. It might be stolen or leaked, or you might be locked out of your information and unable to access it, or people might change it or use it without your permission. So it's not quite like the movies. No matter how much the threat actor, might try and hack the mainframe or backdoor the antivirus. A cyber attack is so much more than just typing furiously and then someone shouting, "I'm in." It's often a lot sneakier and focused on one of the most vulnerable links in every system, the humans using it. No matter how sophisticated these threat actors are, no one has a magic silver bullet. They always need a vector for initial access. And more often than not, we see that this vector is people. People who opt for easy over secure. People who aren't aware that this can and does happen. And people who think, why would anyone go after little old me? And that's an important question. So with this in mind, let's take a look out at the current cyber threat landscape. So a quick caveat around the cyber threat landscape. It's by very nature quite dynamic, and what is true now might not necessarily be true in the coming years and months, especially if you're watching this on the recording. One of the things we do offer as the NCSC is presentations to organisations or leadership teams who are looking for an updated cyber threat picture. And on our website, we also have quarterly and annual reports with an updated version of what we're seeing. But for now, let's touch on who might target New Zealand, how and why the industry might be vulnerable, and what the implications of this could be. So as we grow more reliant on devices and the internet in New Zealand, this presents more opportunities for bad actors to do bad things. And as more and more of these actors enter the cyber threat environment, it becomes more and more difficult to distinguish between different types of motivations and types of actors. But broadly, the two types that we're seeing in the cyber threat landscape include, firstly, criminal actors motivated by things like finance, ideology, or chaos. And secondly, state-sponsored cyber actors engaged in espionage and foreign interference. And while these are useful buckets to think about these threat actors in, they can often fit in multiple buckets or somewhere in between. So in terms of criminal and financially motivated actors, if there was, say, someone out there who was really, really good at stealing potatoes, this would obviously be a worry to us and all of you. And while thankfully there's not, that we know of, there are groups and actors who can cause just as much harm to your operations through cyber means. These criminals and financially motivated actors are becoming more sophisticated and scaling up malicious cyber operations. With tools like AI and other new tech, the knowledge required to be a hacker is really lower than ever. Some of these really sophisticated skills and techniques, which once belonged only to well-resourced nation states, now give criminals the ability to cause national level harm in New Zealand. The reported financial loss, and that's the reported loss, not the actual loss, due to cyber incidents last quarter in New Zealand was almost $8 million. And we're also seeing a higher level than ever before of incidents where over $100,000 worth of financial harm is caused. And so these threat actors' success is often down to things like social engineering, where they essentially manipulate people through scams and frauds. And the use of these techniques is increasing, both in cyber crime as well as state-sponsored interference and cyber espionage. Which takes us to our next point. In addition to these cyber criminals, we also have state-sponsored actors. So underlying this entire threat landscape is a bit of a shifting geopolitical climate. And three of these shifts that we're seeing play out in front of us right now. Firstly, we're moving from cooperation based on shared rules and values to a world where power projection is becoming a huge currency of influence. Cyber attacks are a way for nations to project power, to enable influence and intelligence collection, often without being seen as bad or the same escalation that conventional measures would be. Two, we're seeing the impact of increasing competition and a rise of nationalism, which leaves fewer opportunities for a more collaborative, traditional approach to economics and diplomacy. As a result, again, we see greater incentives for states to use covert tools like cyber attacks to gain a competitive advantage. And three, we're seeing a shift from efficiency to resiliency, where the priority is not necessarily about optimizing systems and partnerships to the way things are, but ensuring that they remain robust in a world where really the only constant is change. So these state-sponsored actors are the ones you might hear of in the news with a cool name like Salt Typhoon, Berserk Bear, or Charming Kitten. But don't be fooled, there is absolutely nothing charming about these kittens. State-sponsored malicious cyber activity happens across New Zealand, and it can affect us all by weakening New Zealand's position on the international stage in trade and security and defence. And some states also seek to obtain things like intellectual property in order to promote their own national interests and commerce. Activity in New Zealand and the Pacific impacts all of our national security, prosperity, and identity. And both New Zealand and Samoa have recently attributed covert espionage activity to specific state-sponsored cyber groups. And there's a few reasons why states might try and interfere. Our colleagues over at the Security Intelligence Service last year released a public threat assessment, giving insights into some of the challenges we face, and particularly for you guys in the private sector, as it relates to innovation and technology. We're consistently being targeted, things like advanced operational processes, anything that they can steal to eliminate any technical advantage that we have, or help with applying economic pressure in things like trade negotiations. MPI report, the Ministry of Primary Industries, has said that the horticulture export revenue is on track for $8.5 billion this year, which is a worthwhile target for all sorts of malicious actors. And as well as information and devices being targeted, we're globally seeing more exposure and targeting of operational technology at both an individual and an organizational level. So operational technology are devices that do something in the physical world. And more of these are connected to the internet or able to be connected to the internet. From large processing facilities, digital farming tools, etc., right down to things like smart light bulbs and fridges, which we collectively call the Internet of Things. And this internet connection can make a lot of equipment smarter, but it also makes them inherently more vulnerable. And this is a really important trade-off to be aware of if you're using operational technology. As the NCSC, we recommend that if a piece of equipment doesn't need to be connected to the internet, don't connect it to the internet. And we have a little bit of further guidance around operational technology and industrial control systems on our website, ncsc.govt.nz. And this operational technology targeting can and does happen. There was an incident that was reported in the news a couple of years ago where a New Zealand vineyard was targeted by malicious cyber actors. These actors gained control of sensors and control systems that were regulating the temperature and acidity of their product. This resulted in downtime, lost and ruined product, and required them to revert to manual processes on some fronts, which in this day and age is not always an option that people are prepared for. So there's a lot of risks to being targeted by these actors in a cyber attack, and it can have a bunch of implications across your personal and professional life. First and foremost, financial. Malicious actors might be able to gain access to your accounts directly, or perhaps use advanced social engineering and manipulation techniques to trick you or someone you trust into transferring money. There's also operational implications. If cyber actors hit you with programs like ransomware, this can lock you out of your devices, out of your networks, and steal your sensitive data. If you lose control of these accounts and devices or equipment, you and your business won't be able to function properly. And any of those internet-connected smart device Internet of Things that we talked about are vulnerable as soon as you connect them to the internet to being targeted. which again could lead to downtime, financial harm. And finally, there's the reputational aspect where someone impersonating you who has access to your accounts could send people messages or make posts, damaging your personal or professional brand. And if it becomes obvious that you've been compromised, people might be less likely to trust you with your data. It's important to mention here, if you do report an incident to us, the NCSC treats this in strict confidence and would never disclose that without your approval. So while these are some of the risks we face and some of the actors that we face them from, the good news is that there are ways that you and your organization can protect your systems, data, and information. So they say an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, and that's really never more true than in cybersecurity. Today, I'm going to touch on two relatively simple ways for increasing cybersecurity, using really good passwords and using multi-factor authentication. These often seem quite simple, but they're really important to get right, and they can pay massive dividends when we do. Often, we see even sophisticated cyber attacks are ultimately enabled by a very, very simple failure. So in terms of passwords, the implications of someone knowing your password are very serious. They could, in summary, really ruin your life for a while. So it's really important to keep these safe. And a long password is a strong password. You can do things to make it easy to remember by using, say, a passphrase of 4 or more random words. And as an example here, the first 3 passwords, you have a combination of numbers, letters, and symbols, are obviously still quite simple. And using a computer with the right software, just trying a bunch of combinations, and what we call a brute force attack, that could take hours or days to crack. While the last one would likely take years, because password strength scales up much quicker with length than complexity. But long passwords are so hard to remember, right? Not necessarily. Our brains remember pictures and scenes a lot better than convoluted sequences. For example, memorizing the top one, absolute nightmare, right? Just as you've finally committed it to memory, you'll probably get prompted to change it again. However, what's much more enjoyable is remembering the bottom picture of a hedgehog in a coffee cup on a wooden table in a square. Boom. Coffee, hedgehog, square, wooden. Long, strong, adorable, and a bit strange. What's not to love? And hand in hand with strength goes uniqueness as far as passwords are concerned. We know from some research that we've done into the behaviours of New Zealanders that we really like to reuse passwords. And why should you have a different password for each account? Well, unfortunately, usernames and passwords are regularly exposed or stolen in data breaches. So things like that time you might have signed up for a one-off loyalty account to get 10% off your online shopping. Well, if a cyber criminal gets hold of your password for something like that, which you don't really care about, yeah, maybe it's not the end of the world. But then if you've used that same password for your email or banking, how they can easily get into this too. And that's actually a common technique called credential stuffing, where hackers try known username password combinations across a bunch of websites and apps, counting on the fact that you will have reused your password. And if you hate remembering passwords, you can also use a password manager. This is an application which functions kind of like an electronic safe. It stores all your passwords, so you only have to remember one. And if you visit the website down there in the corner, Own Your Online, we have a bit more specific guidance around how to choose a good password manager. However, as the NCSC, we are vendor agnostic and do not recommend a specific one. And so that's fine moving forward. But what about the past? Well, you can check if an account linked to your email has been compromised at the website on this slide, www.haveibeenpwned.com. And if anything comes up on that list, definitely change your password for that account immediately. and any other account that might share a variation of that password. And I mean, if you're online, you can check now even www.have-I-been-pwned.com. And you can also register to receive alerts if your email address pops up in a new breach, because just because you haven't been pwned yet doesn't mean you won't be pwned at some point in the future. And so moving on to the second way that we can stay safe, multi-factor authentication. This is one of the most effective ways to keep your online accounts and devices secure. And you've all probably used it before, whether you know it or not. A common example is you log in with your accounts, your username and password, and then you need a temporary code, either from a text message or an authentication app or your email. And while this is a bit of extra effort for you, it can be an absolute roadblock for a hacker. We've seen how passwords can be exposed, so we can't rely solely on them to keep us safe. Multi-factor authentication involves having a factor from at least two of these categories. Something you know, like a password, a PIN number, or security question. Something you have, like your phone or a security key. And something you are, like your voice, fingerprint, or face. I personally use a little USB key that makes my laptop inaccessible even with the password, unless the key is plugged into it. And that gives me two of those factors. Something I know, the password, and something I have, a security key. Any MFA, any multi-factor authentication, is better than none. But some methods are better than others. And we recommend, where you can, the option of a security key or an authentication app rather than an email or text code. These days, in terms of what you can use multi-factor authentication on, it is an option for almost everything, for your online banking, for your social media, for your devices. The option is there to MFA everything. And for more guidance, again, on how to specifically do this, that Own Your Online website goes into a little bit more depth on that. So yeah, we've got long, strong, and unique passwords, multi-factor authentication, and as a quick bonus one, I expect a lot of you probably will interact with networks and the internet on more mobile devices like laptops and phones. And as far as these are concerned, cybersecurity researchers are always testing apps, devices, and operating systems, trying to break in. And when they do, a fix is usually created quickly. But the only way to get these fixes onto your device is through updates. So updating your apps, updating your devices regularly and as soon as possible is really important. And this includes any operational technology where patches or updates might be released by the vendor. And similarly, just being aware to check any unfamiliar apps before you download them, that they're legitimate and safe. Read reviews on the App Store, read reviews online, ask someone you know. Finally, if the worst does happen, the important thing, if something does happen, if you think you've been breached, is to tell someone and to do it as soon as possible. Tell your internal IT team, your internal security team, or your managed service provider, if you have one. Otherwise, if you experience an incident, whether as an individual or a large organization, we can help. I'm going to preface this. The reporting lines are currently a little bit convoluted, but we expect that to change very soon. So as an individual, currently individuals and small businesses report to NCSC through our Computer Emergency Response Team, or CERT team, while larger organizations report directly to the NCSC website at this link here. But the bottom line is, reach out, there's no wrong door, and we can make sure that the right people know about it. So in summary, we've briefly looked at how, why, and by whom the sector could be targeted. And the main things to do are making sure your passwords are long, strong, and unique, making sure you're using multi-factor authentication wherever you can and updating your devices, and tapping into the resource that is Own Your Online and NCSC for more. If something goes wrong, report it. It's easy to think nothing happens when you report, but your reports help us to better understand the threats that we are facing and the threats that others like you are facing, and to shape our posture and response. Because our vision at the end of the day is that cybersecurity is not something that you do once and then tick off, and it's certainly not something that the NCSC can handle alone. The person with the most ability to keep you safe online is yourself. And so good, effective cybersecurity is something that's done all the time, everywhere, by all of us.